Hello BookTube, hello friends, welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth, and this video is going to be part 2 of my July wrap-up, and I am going to share with you in this video about the cozy mysteries that I read for the month of July. I decided to go ahead and divide my wrap-up into 2 videos this month because I read 32 books, and 9 of them were cozy mysteries, and since a lot of you probably found me because of your interest in cozy mysteries, I decided it would be fun to just go ahead and showcase those in this video. And not to mention the fact that I participated and completed a Cozy Mystery Summer Reading Challenge that is right now being hosted by the Killing It with Cozies Discord group. I've been talking about this group for a while now. They started right around the end of March Mystery Madness, and they are a super fun group. They are always doing some kind of challenge or book club or just chatting about cozy mysteries in general, and it is a great group, and I want to encourage you to join. So and the group is also hosted by Ro from Cozy Reads Mystery and Tiffany from the Beach Bum Bookworm. So the challenge for the summer is to read books that where the titles start with S-U-M-M-E-R, or if you can't find a book you want to read that starts with that letter, at least a word somewhere in the title that starts with that letter. So I was able to find books that started with the appropriate letters. You didn't have to count titles that started with A or the. You could skip to the next word, which is awesome because I took advantage of that. And I read all of mine in about a week, but you don't have to do that. It started the first of summer, and it doesn't end until the last day of summer. So even if you haven't even thought about joining this series or this challenge, you've still got more than a month and a half left in the time frame to complete the challenge, and it's just 6 books. So I hope that you will join in if you haven't already. If you've already gotten started on it, let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what you've been reading. I know that a lot of you have already been sharing in the group, and I'm a little behind on messages over there. I need to go back and read those, but if you are in that group already, you've already probably seen where I posted what I read, so this is going to be old news to you, but at least I want to share with you a little bit about these books and what I thought about them. So let's start with the 6 books that I read for the challenge, and then I'll also chat for a few minutes about the other cozy mysteries that I read during the month. So I went ahead and read mine in order. I read my S book first, and then U, and then M, and so forth, and it just worked out that 3 of the books in the Needlecraft Mysteries went perfectly. From books 3, 4, and 5, they started perfectly with the letters that I needed. So at the time when this challenge was announced, I had only read book 1 in the series, which is Cruel World. I had not read book 2. So I got book 2 done back in June, and then I was ready to go with my S book for summer. I've got them out of order now, but here we go. Here's the S book. So just a little word about the series. This is the Needlecraft series by Monica Ferris. The first book, Cruel World, we meet Betsy Devonshire, who goes to visit her sister who owns a needlecraft shop, and her sister is murdered while she's there. So Betsy decides to investigate, and then eventually decides to keep the shop and run it herself, even though she really does not know much about needlecraft. So in the second book, Framed in Lace, she is continuing to learn more about needlecrafting and is kind of second-guessing whether she should even continue this endeavor, but she is slowly finding her place. And so in the third book, A Stitch in Time, which is what I used for my S book, she is gradually just still learning and getting her feet wet, and she has just realized and been advised by her accountant that she should probably be spending some money on advertising when she learns about this church that's being renovated, and I think one of her employees or customers is helping with that, and they uncover a very damaged tapestry. So Betsy volunteers to supply whatever supplies are needed for the renovation and the repair of the tapestry. And meanwhile, there is some mystery in this. There is some mysterious symbols and things like that that almost seem like a code. And so while Betsy is trying to figure out the mystery of this tapestry, there is at least one murder and maybe two, and it turns out that whatever the mystery of this tapestry is, someone is willing to kill to keep that from being known. So that's the mystery in A Stitch in Time. The next book, which starts with U, Unraveled Sleeve, is where Betsy decides to go to a conference or a stitch-in. It's not really a conference, yeah. It's at a resort, and it is a needlecraft event, and she accidentally stumbles onto a dead body. And when she goes back to take someone there to find it, it's not there anymore. So the mystery goes from there. And then in A Murderous Yarn, which I used for my first M in summer, this one is about a car, an antique car. It's not a race. It is well, I'm trying to think what they call it. It's like a tour, but her friend who has an antique car, he keeps treating it like it's a race. But anyway, Betsy decides to volunteer at this event, and one of her best friends' boyfriend is a classic car owner, and so he enters this event. And so this tour goes from like the town where they are to another town and then back. And on the way back, one of the drivers doesn't show up. So when the organizer of the event goes back to look for him, he finds him dead under his car, and the mystery goes from there. So I will definitely continue this series. My sister had read some of the later books in the series, and she didn't really care too much for the ones that she read, because she said that as it goes on, there is a bit of a supernatural element. I haven't picked up on that at this point. Still just in the early books, so I don't know about that, but I'm going to continue for now. I have, I think, all of the books on my shelves. It's a 19-book series, and I'm excited that they are on Hoopla on audio as well, and so I'm looking forward to reading more of that series. And then for my second M, I started a series mainly because my mystery book club is reading the Christmas book from this series in December, and I would like to go ahead and read the other books leading up to that. So it was perfect to go ahead and get this one done. This is Murder in an Irish Village by Carlene O'Connor, and this is set in Ireland. I'm trying to remember now what the mystery was in this one. It's about this family of I think the oldest one is maybe 19, and she's got a bunch of siblings. Their parents have died, and they run is it a bistro? Yeah, they run the family bistro, and they have managed to continue to run this bistro even though the parents have died. But one morning they come in, and there's a man in the bistro, and when they go over to question him, he has a pair of scissors stuck in his heart, I think. And it turns out that a salon had just given out those exact kind of scissors to the whole town as a promotion. So it's going to be pretty hard to figure out where, who the killer was, because everybody's got a pair of these scissors. And because the body was found in their restaurant, of course they are immediately the suspects. And I think the oldest brother had been in some kind of a fight with this person that's found dead, and the oldest sister has to try to clear him. So that was an interesting mystery. The accent on the audiobook was very good, great Irish accent, and I'm looking forward to reading some more of these later. I may not get to any more of these in August because I have another book club selection that I've got to read up to, but probably by the time September comes around, I will try to binge the rest of the series and be ready to read the Christmas book. Okay, for my ebook, I read Eggs in a Casket by Laura Childs. This is book 5 in the Cackleberry Club Mysteries. Now, I knew that I wanted to read this one for E, and I had not yet read book 4, Steak and Eggs, at the time that this series or this challenge was announced, and this could have counted for my S book, but I wanted to count those those next three in the other series. So I basically had two books that started with S. I listened to this one on audio right before I started the challenge, and started on the not the Cruel War books, the Needlecraft books. So anyway, this month I did read both of these. Steak and Eggs was kind of gory, not super cozy. It is about a man, well, it's not about the man. The man who was murdered was riding on a snowmobile, and someone had strung a wire across the path, and he was decapitated. So you don't find too many cozy mysteries with decapitations for sure. But anyway, I still listen to it. And the Cackleberry Club mysteries are about three women who run the Cackleberry Club. It's a breakfast and lunch diner. They also have a bookstore and a gift shop, and they have basically a lot of things under one roof. And sometimes in the afternoon, they host an afternoon tea, and they have other special events, book signings. There is an author, a romance author, who lives in the town, and she often comes and does book signings. She's a little bit of a I don't want to say nemesis, but she's an interesting character. So anyway, then Eggs in a Casket. In this book, are two of the ladies who run the Cackleberry Club were making a flower delivery out to the cemetery, and they stumbled upon an open grave with a dead body just laying in the grave. So that's the mystery involved in that one. So that covered SUMME. And for R, I had to go with the book, the first in a series, because I couldn't find anything I was already reading where the next book started with R. And I kept seeing this one on Hoopla, and I decided to go ahead and give it a look. I didn't know anything about it when I picked it up. And book two, there's only two books in the series so far that I can tell. Book two is called The Satanic Mechanic. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to read anything with the word satanic in the title, but I'm sure it just means evil. But this one was very interesting. It's set in South Africa. It is called Recipes for Love and Murder, a Tani Maria mystery by Sally Andrew. And Tani Maria is a woman who, I believe she is widowed, and she does a column for the newspaper, an advice column. And she is a delightful character. I would say overall, this book reminds me, really the only thing I have to compare it to is the Number One Ladies Detective Agency, which is also set in Africa. And I would say that this one is not quite as endearing as the Number One Ladies, but she definitely grew on me as the book progressed. It's very food-centric. Almost all of her advice has something to do with food. There are recipes. I think there's about 30 pages of recipes in the book. And it was very good, very enjoyable. Now, there is some foul language. Some of it is in Afrikaans, and there's a glossary in the back, which I didn't realize until I was just about done, and I sat down afterwards and went through the glossary. There's about 6 pages of glossary with the Afrikaans words, and some of them are swear words, and she tells you, what they mean. And so even the F word is spelled a little different, and she says, what it means in English. She says, but in Afrikaans, it doesn't sound quite so rude. And I would have to agree with that after listening on the audio and thinking, is that what that means? And it was. So anyway, this is the debut novel by Sally Andrew. She does have some nonfiction books, but this is her first novel. She lives on a nature preserve in South Africa, according to her bio. And yeah, this was fun. It is kind of a chunky book, but like I said, there's 30 pages of recipes, 6 pages of glossary. So that, that takes up some space as well. I would recommend, if you want to check this out, just know there is some foul language, and it is a little more racy than your average cozy mystery. It's not as cozy as the Number One Ladies Detective Agency, but again, it's very food centric, and Tani Maria is she does really grow on you after a while. So if it sounds like something that you would like, then I recommend checking it out. This book and the second book are on Hoopla on audio. And then the next book I want to tell you about is one of the last books that I finished at the end of the month. This is the most recent Hannah Swenson Baking Mystery by Joanne Fluke. I have read this entire series. I started reading these when, back in the early days. This is, I think, is this 27 or something like that? It's somewhere up in the high 20s. There were maybe 8 books when I started reading these, and I binged those first ones, and then well, I don't know, there was probably more than that. I started reading them, and I have been keeping up with this series for several years now. And so I put this on my Series About Series challenge because I wanted to continue to read the newest one as it comes out. And this one was not great. But I'm going to continue to read them because I've just invested so much in the series. As I and other people have said who have been reading this for a long time, over the years, they have gotten much more elementary than they used to be. And it wasn't bad, but it's getting to where it's almost, it's kind of laughable to an extent. And there's something now lately that I hadn't noticed before, maybe a little bit in the last couple of books. But in this book, Hannah, who is our main character, she's been talking to herself with like her rational mind and her, it's not cynical mind, but something like one's kind of positive, one's kind of negative. And she's like talking to herself in her head, and it's just, I feel like that was done probably a half a dozen or more times in this short book. And I thought, okay, this is too much. She needs to stop talking to herself and arguing back. But anyway, the recipes look really good, and I have enjoyed the series overall, especially the first several books. So I would say to any of you who are interested in reading this, definitely start at the beginning and enjoy those first several books. Eventually, you may get tired of it and you'll decide not to continue on, and that's fine. I'm going to keep reading them until she runs it into the ground, I suppose. But there are some enjoyable moments. In this book, the mayor, who is kind of a scoundrel, he has been in every book, I think. He gets killed. So that's the mystery in this one. And Hannah's sister Andrea had just had a huge argument with him and slapped him and stormed out of the office. And when she came back later to apologize, she found him dead. So that's the mystery of this one. And then the one that I read in print, that I liked the least. I did not like it at all. And I hate that because I was really looking forward to this. This is the first book in the Quilting Mysteries by Terri Thayer. It's called Wild Goose Chase. There are 3 in this series. I own 2 of them, and I was all excited to read this and the next one and send these to my sister. And I'll still send it to my sister if she wants to try it herself. But let me just tell you, I was not impressed with this book. And I've got another 3-book series on my shelf by the same author, and I'll take a look at the first book in that series, but I'm not holding out a lot of hope. So I'm kind of kicking myself because thinking back, the second book in this series is the one I found first, and I bought it because of the cover. And now, after reading this one, I went on and read the first chapter in book 2, which is in this book. Even though I own it, I just went ahead and I was sitting there and I thought, well, I'll just read the first chapter. It starts right out with a topic that I do not like. And had I just picked up that first book and looked at the first page, I would have saved myself a lot of time and aggravation, for sure. But I didn't. A lot of times I am one to judge a book by its cover, and if it looks cute, I'm going to grab it. If I'm at a library sale and I'm just, in a hurry looking through all the books. So this is teaching me that I need to actually open the book and maybe read a few sentences before I bring something home. So here's what I didn't like about it. Several things. it started out, first of all, the main characters were just hateful to each other. They just weren't nice to each other at all. Our main character is a tech person. She's a more of an IT kind of person. Her mom owned a quilt shop. Her mom has died, and I think she was an out of work tech person, the daughter. So her mom left the store to her, completely to her. She has the mom had a daughter-in-law who also worked in the store, but she left the store completely to her daughter, even though the daughter-in-law is really the one who is the quilter. She knows everything about the store. She could really run the business. And so there's animosity between them from the get-go because the sister-in-law really wants to continue running the store like her mother-in-law had done. And now the new owner, the daughter, wants to computerize everything and get things up into the 21st century and all of that. So there's nothing wrong with that. But they go about it, they just butt heads, and they're just mean to each other. And then there is, so we have the first day, and that's a fiasco. Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta tell you where they are. They're at a quilt expo. So the story opens, they're at a quilt expo, and they're setting up, and the new owner, the daughter, is trying to get everything online and up and running. And of course, the daughter-in-law wants to sabotage that and just do things, you know, paper and pencil and do it the old way. So, so that happens. And meanwhile, there's other things. There is a murder, and the main character finds the body, all that. So the policeman, one of the detectives who is investigating, is the best friend of this woman's brother. And I guess he had always had a crush on her, but she always kind of looked at him as, you know, her brother's friend, and she's not going to have anything to do with him. And so then she goes home after, you know, everybody's been questioned, and she's the suspect, of course, and he's the detective. Well, he comes to her house, and then they end up in bed. And, okay, first of all, that's kind of a conflict of interest because he's investigating and she's a suspect. So he should not be at her house. And second of all, why are they in bed when they're just barely, I mean, no, this is just no. It's a cozy mystery. I don't need to see sex scenes. And they're not super graphic, but enough. I mean, it's not behind closed doors or anything. So I don't expect sex scenes in my cozy mysteries, I guess. And so that threw me for a loop. And so then, of course, that happens, and she regrets it. Then the next day, she goes back to the the expo. And then we get to lunchtime, and she goes outside for lunch, and there he is in his big truck. And she gets in the truck with him, and they go off and they have sex again in the truck. And then she regrets it. And I'm like, did you not remember that you regretted it the first time? And what are you doing out in a truck? Are you, you know, oh my goodness. It just kept getting bad after worse. And I was just like, oh my goodness, what am I reading? There were times that I wanted to just throw it across the room. I thought, this is not a cozy mystery that I could... you know, I can't recommend this to my sister. I mean, she can read it if she wants to. She's an adult, but older than me. But, you know, you look at this and you think, oh, it's a sweet quilting mystery. You know, this is something I could recommend to my mom. But no, absolutely not. If my mom was still living, I wouldn't let her anywhere near this. I would say, no, Mom, don't read that. So I'm just really disappointed in that series. And, you know, if it were a romance book, that's a different story. But this is a cozy mystery, and you just don't expect that to be in your cozy mysteries. So, I know I'm ranting. You can disagree with me all you want. That is totally fine. It's just not what I wanted to read, and I was disappointed. So, as a result, I am not even going to pick up the second book except to get it out of my house. I am going to first ask my sister if she wants this one and the second one. Send them to her if she does. And after that, you will hear about this one more time because this came from my TBR jar. So when I do my TBR jar wrap up, I'll mention it again. I'll try not to rant for so long about it. Then I'll refer back to this video. But meanwhile, I didn't like it. you know, if you liked it, that is great, but it wasn't for me. So that is everything. That is all 9 of the Cozy Mysteries that I read during the month of July. I had a few others that I was planning to read, and I just didn't get to them. So I will be reading some more in the month of August. I plan to binge read quite a few books in the Amelia Peabody series by Elizabeth Peters, because our book club is reading book 14 in that series later, I think in November. So I've got between now and November to read as many as I can. I've already read book 1, really loved it, and I'm excited to binge several of those books this month, in the month of August. So stay tuned to hear about those. And if you have read any of that series, then definitely come back and watch my August wrap up, and we'll chat about Amelia Peabody. She is a great character. So for now, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.